Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for tuning in to the Ogarstyle channel. We've got a bunch of videos to go through today, so I'm kind of be a little bit motor-mouthed about this, trying to get the information, get to the next video, upload those videos, and then do the rest of them and all that good stuff. So with that being said, we're going to jump right into 9/11. We're going to talk about four specific things right off the bat. One is Building 4, another is Building 7. We're also going to talk about a Tom Clancy novel, and then after that we're going to talk about an X-Files spinoff called The Lone Gunman. So starting off with Building 4, that's an interesting situation that I really think people need to take a look at. You'll notice that Building 4, the walls of the building are intact, but the very center of the building inside of those walls is completely disappeared, ghosted, gone. Went on a CIA vacation. Okay, but the funny thing about that is, and there's all kinds of conspiracy theories about it, you know, lasers, directed energy, things of this nature. I'm not here to get into that. I'm just here to say, take a look at the weird instance that you have Building 4 intact on the outside. So the walls are still up, but the inside of the building, all the way down to the ground, is absolutely disappeared. Now, obviously, with some stuff like this, there's some char marks and stuff like that inside and outside the building. But you can see that where these walls are within, you know, it doesn't go, the destruction of the center, in the center or hole of the building doesn't go all the way to the walls. So you can see like different levels of the floors of the building if you're above looking in. So when you're above looking in, you can see, how do I describe this? So you can see a floor that's still intact, you know, for 15, 20 feet from the edge to the wall of the center of everything that's demolished inside. But 10 feet away from the edge of that floor, you'll see like papers intact, people's desks that are not burnt, charred, or anything like that. So it's very interesting, worth taking a look at. The next thing is Building 7. Building 7, definitely a very interesting situation there. And the interesting situation there is that you can actually go out and find footage from BBC, and they're reporting that Building 7 has fallen that day. Now, we all know it fell. The weird thing, though, is that there were buildings closer to Trade Center 1 and 2 that might have or should have or could have collapsed, but did not. Now, like I said, Building 7's a little further than some other buildings that were unaffected, basically. So the funny thing is, you know, if you take a look at what was housed in Building 7, there's some weird stuff, some CIA offices, some defense offices, Department of Defense offices, things of that nature. So the big kicker, though, like I mentioned, the BBC telling you that on their newscast that Building 7 had fallen is kind of funny, because right in the background, okay, actually it would have been on this side of the reporter, now that I think about it, if I'm pointing in the right direction. It would have been over, if you're staring at her like you're staring at me, it would have been over her left shoulder on your right side. So with that being said, the building is still in fucking intact. Building 7 is still intact while this lady is reporting that it's fallen. Red flag, right? It's just obvious shit here. Now, I'm not trying to get all too crazy with the conspiracy theory of 9/11. There's plenty of videos for that. I'm just trying to bring facts to your, you know, kind of look at it, think about it. So then on top of that, we were force-fed a line of bullshit that nobody had ever thought of this. Nobody had ever thought about a plane being flown into a building, and things of that nature. But the funny thing is that most nuclear reactors and the towers were actually created with the... They said that when these were created, that they were supposed to be able to withstand an impact from a plane. Okay, so if nobody's ever thought about this, how are these buildings and these nuclear plants supposed to be able to withstand a nuclear, not a nuclear, but a plane impact? So the funny part about that is we got two instances where in what's called predictive programming, and I'm not a big fan of predictive programming. You get videos out there that'll say Back to the Future predicted 9/11, that The Simpsons predicted 9/11, and that The Simpsons predicted Donald Trump as president, things of this nature, right? So moving along on that predictive programming context, let's take a look at the book Executive Order. So on the book Executive Order, written by Tom Clancy, there's a character in the book, a Japanese national who's flying a commercial airliner and decides to plunge it right into the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. The reason this is important is because the main character, Jack Ryan, in the Jack Ryan series, you're probably familiar with Jack Ryan. He's the guy that Alec Baldwin played in The Hunt for Red October. He's also the same character that Harrison Ford played in Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger, and that Ben Affleck in The Sum of All Fears played Mr. Jack Ryan. Anyways, long story short, this is a book that came out, and you have to understand, I'm in San Diego. It's either late 2001 or early 2002. I'm not entirely sure. I think it was late 2001, if I'm most accurate. That being said, I'm reading the book and I hear this, or I read it, you know what I mean, and this happens, and I'm like, wait up, these motherfuckers. And then, like, there was this spin-off of the X-Files called The Lone Gunman. That would be the three goofy guys that you see in the X-Files that every now and again help Agent Mulder. One of my favorite shows, so I just fucking love them, but I never watched the spinoff. And if I did, I don't really remember watching it live when it first came out. But anyways, 6 months before they came out, what happened was they had an episode, their very first episode, the pilot episode of The Lone Gunman. It's on YouTube. If you Google it right now, it's a 45-minute episode. Go right to the 30-minute mark, and right then and there, they tell you about their plot to put a plane into the buildings. And in the show, they didn't talk about the buildings falling. However, they did talk about a lot of destruction at the foot of the towers, and they do have footage of the plane headed towards the fucking tower, right? So, just some things to take a look at, and take a look at the narrative. There's so many things that just don't fucking fit right, and it's always been a big conspiracy theory, for folks. But with that being said, those are some things to take a look at. And like I said, these aren't, conspiracy theory. These are fact. The BBC did report the building falling before it did. The Building 4 stuff is very obviously odd. That the other two buildings would crumble and then Building 4 would be hollowed out. So then on top of that, I believe the book by Tom Clancy was either Executive Order, is the one that tells the story of Jack Ryan becoming the president after the president and the whole cabinet are killed when the plane plunges into... I think it's Executive Order is the book that tells the story of what happened after the plane crashed into the Capitol, and the book before that tells you what leads up to it and ends with the Japanese national landing. So, also the Lone Gunman, that's something you can easily YouTube here, go to the 30-minute mark and take a look at it. You're gonna be a fucking shock, because this was only 6 months that episode came out before September 11th. So, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, there's some stuff to take a look at. I really thank you for your time. I hope you have yourself a safe and happy holiday season. And as always, thanks for tuning in, folks.